and allow this to begin. There it goes. Okay, so I need one more person to show me a thumbs up that you can see the Welcome Back GES slideshow that's been shared on your screen. Libby, I'm looking at your face. Can you give me a thumbs up that you can see that shared presentation? You cannot yet. Okay, so let's double check that I've presented it. So it shows that I'm presenting. In Google Meet, you have a couple different options. Some of you might be using the grid option where you can see all the faces in the room, and it might make that presentation hard to see. If you would like to change how you're viewing this, in the bottom section of your Google Meet screen, if you kind of scroll your little mouse down there, a little white bar will appear, and that's where you mute and you can end the call. And on the far right-hand side are 3 little dots. And if you click on those, you can change your layout. And some of the different layouts might allow you to experience this a little bit differently and see maybe the presentation screen a little bit bigger, or you could choose a tiled view and see some of the other things. But again, know that if for any reason we're having technical difficulties and you cannot see my presentation, it will be recorded, and the recorded version will present it pretty clearly. So I'm going to get on going here, starting here with kind of a vision for this school year. In 2018, we were Garfield Unleashed, and that emerged, if some of you remember or were in the school a few years ago, it emerged from a student who just provided me a picture one day. She stopped by my office and said, "Mr. Kleiber, I made this for, for our school." And it was this picture of a bear that was bursting through this piece of notebook paper, and the title of her work was Garfield Unleashed. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. And it was one of the twins from the Spoon family, and it became our theme for that entire next year. We were Garfield Unleashed. We were going to break through norms. We were going to step around anything that would keep us from moving forward as a school. And it became this very idea of what we would do and how we would do it as a school, and it was awesome. Then the next year came, and I challenged our group last year, and I said, "Okay, we've been Garfield Unleashed. What are we next?" And open it up to, again, students who would put together anything from a visual piece to a written piece to poetry. And we voted in a piece called Garfield United. And that was the face of our website, and that was the face of my communications. And we are to a new year. And we have been Garfield Unleashed, and we have been Garfield United, and we are now Garfield Inspired. Garfield Inspired is going to mean a lot of things to us this year, and we're going to reach out to students once again and say, what should that look like? What should the face of that be? And have those, have our kids put a face to it. But I wanted to get your mind and your ideas wrapped around what Garfield Inspired could be. And I listed a few that I thought were maybe most pertinent. Garfield Inspired is what we see in our community. We live and work in a beautiful community with so many different types of people and so many wonderful homes and families. It's a result of how we treat each other. It's about how we find strengths in each other. It's about risk-taking, and it's about imperfection and it being a little bit messy. It's about choice, and it's about leadership, and each of us have a role in how we inspire others around us and what inspires us as we move in and throughout our lives. And school is no different. And so that's why I chose to start with this year, and I started my work with Garfield staff when they return this year in the very same way, in the very same conversation I'm offering you now. And so you're going to continue to hear that phrase and that idea of Garfield Inspired as we do our work this year. Granted, it's going to be a different kind of year, but that doesn't change who we are. At this point on your screen, I'm going to read through some key dates, and I'm going to come back to them at the very end. And for those of you that are able to write this down who are not driving, gosh, I hope none of you are driving trying to listen to me, because that's just no way to drive. But here's some specific dates and things that you're going to want to know. One is device pickups. And there's a question around that. So I'll start off with, do I need a device? If I'm a parent, how will I know if I'm supposed to pick one up? The bottom line is our district is willing to provide every single device, every single student in our district a device. So, last spring, it was one device per home, regardless if you have 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids. This year, it's making sure that every student has one. But you might be asking, well, what if I have one and it works just fine? Is that okay? And the answer is yes. If you have a computer and it functions just fine, and you're able to access Google and Google apps like, like this Google Meet or like Google Sheets and Google Classroom and those types of things, then it's going to be just fine. But if you have any doubts and would like a district delivered device, then there's information happening. It's actually happening now every day, every weekday between August 19th and 28th, between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. at Conrad Ball Middle School. And there is a form that you do have to fill out prior to going, and that form has been included on our school website on the little wandering banner across the top. So you fill out that form, you head on over to Conrad, and you go pick up those devices that you need. We are scheduled as a school for student material remote learning pack pickup. Try to say that 5 times fast. And what that is our teachers are putting together a pack of materials for your student that they will need and want at home. And of course, every grade level has a different set that they're putting together, but some common elements are every student should receive their sketchbook. Every student will receive a Lisa bag full of art materials that will allow them to participate fully with some of the arts integration activities that we're going to do. Things like the math expression workbooks will be included. Things like our Ready Gen literacy workbooks and some physical books that they'll need for reading will be included. And so there is a date for that. It is Tuesday, next Tuesday, August 25th, happening from noon to 7 o'clock at night. And again, there's going to be some individual items, but bottom line is every student will have a pack to pick up. And that'll be happening at Garfield classroom exterior doors or close to their exterior doors. And all you got to do is cruise by and pick up your pack and wave and go. A couple grade levels may be doing a sign up genius just to try to encourage increased distance and increased space between people that are coming. And I would remind you and ask that anytime you're coming on campus, I would remind you that a mask is required and social distancing is required. So at this time, you know, like last year when we were picking up our materials from desk, I was asking for only one parent. And it was a sad affair. And you're more than welcome to bring the kids if you'd like to pick up the packs. But just remember that our teachers probably won't, well, not probably, they won't be allowed to or be able to hug your kids at this time, but they can at least wave and say hi and see their cool masks and make eye contact and pick up those learning materials to go home. So that again is Tuesday, August 25th from 12 to 7 o'clock that night. We also have 2 virtual back to school nights coming up. Our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades will be holding their virtual back to school nights on Wednesday, August 26th from 6 to 6:45. Our kinder, 1st, and 2nd grades will be holding their virtual back to school night on Thursday, August 27th, 6 to 6:45. And you'll receive communication from your teacher with a meet link just like this one to join in and engage in that time together. So I wanted to start off, some of the questions that I received in that Google form was around this idea of what in the world is the difference between the Garfield remote option and the Thompson Connect option. What will my students in the Garfield remote option receive differently, or how will that function differently than, say, the Thompson Connect model? And so I copied a couple slides directly from Dawn Huckabee's slide that she show that she gave to the Board of Education. And I don't know if it was a week ago, a month ago, the days are sort of running together at this point. But the perfect image really is those 2 trains running side by side. They are 2 different paths, but they are both Thompson School District. And one thing that I think is important to know is that a Garfield student, if they're in Thompson Connect in that Florida virtual model, is still a Garfield student. It's important to note that if you have opted in for that Thompson Connect, that you are committed through January. Just for the sake of consistency and making sure that you've gleaned as much from that program as is necessary, you're committed to January. And at that point, if you choose to make another choice, you're still a Garfield student and will be included back into whatever model we're in then. As of right now, the intent is that on October 16th, our Garfield remote students will become Garfield in-person students. So that kind of details that second train. Garfield remote, right now, from September 1, well, August 31st for our kindergartners, September 1st through October 16th, those students are remote learners from home through technology and through online teaching from our staff. And then October 16th, so long as plans stay on track, then those students will return to in-person in our school instruction. And I'll be able to share as we get closer what that looks like and how that's either differed from where we are now or not. We'll have to see. So teacher-wise, Garfield remote students will have access to and be regularly rostered with Garfield teachers. So if you're a 4th grade student in Garfield remote, you'll be either rostered with Mrs. Thomas or Mrs. Spidell, or if you are a 1st grade student rostered with Garfield remote, you'll be rostered with either Mrs. Scanlon or Mrs. Hawkins, which is a shared classroom, or with Mrs. McClure. If you are a Thompson Connect student, you will be rostered with a Thompson School District teacher, but it may not be a Garfield teacher. And so they'll be guiding those students through those particular online modules and different things that are happening in that program. I wanted to share with you where we are with numbers. And so my next slide kind of lets you know how things have evolved for our school and what it looks like for our classrooms. And so overall enrollment for Garfield right now, we're typically at about 260. We're starting this year in our Garfield remote option with 202 kids, and Thompson Connect has enrolled 49. So what that means right now is our kindergarten classrooms are Mrs. Javernick at 17 and Mrs. Sutton at 16. Our first grade classrooms are Mrs. McClure at 13 and Mrs. Scanlon and Hawkins at 13. Our second grade classroom is Mrs. Wallen, she's at 20. Mrs. Wright has become a teacher on special assignment with Thompson Connect, so she will have a group of students for that Florida Virtual Academy. Our third grade, Mrs. Jackson, will have 17 students, and Mrs. Wyman, 17 students. Our fourth grade, Mrs. Thomas, will have 13, and Miss Spidell, 13. And our fifth grade, Mr. Thomas, will have 16, and Mrs. Burke, 16. And so that kind of gives you the layout. We're going to have some small groups, we'll have some moderate groups, and we're going to have lots of things in between. In terms of a comparison and instructional model, so this kind of reaches into that question I got it from a few of you. What exactly is the day going to look like? What will my Garfield remote student experience in terms of a day? Our Garfield students, let me just go ahead and move forward to that, will have a consistent weekly schedule mirrored as closely to a regular in-person schedule as possible. So it's useful to understand that legislatively, we are still required as a school and as a district to provide a certain number of hours and a certain number of days instructionally each school year. And so we are going to meet that, and we're going to meet that uniquely and the very best that we can through a consistent weekly schedule, and that will be communicated to you each and every week. So Garfield will choose a particular day. It might be Wednesday or a Thursday or a Friday, but every single week on that day, we're going to communicate the next week's schedule and plans to you, so you know how to plan ahead for what is being taught. We are providing full academic days that are going to be balanced with synchronous teaching and independent practice and work. So while I say full academic days, it does not mean that at 7:30 the computer goes on and in my video I kind of talked about being zombies. No, this isn't 7.5 hours of straight computer time. So we need to balance that. The daily schedule will include daily access to specials, which is music, art, and PE, which will be taught with a human being, with our specials teachers in front of you, remotely, of course. It'll include social emotional time. So we are still hiring a new counselor for our school. But in the meantime, we have built into our schedule every single day time for our teachers to work and talk with your kids about their zones of regulation, time for them to meet and just talk as human beings about how they're feeling and how they're doing and relate to each other. So that has been built into every single day. And there should be additional time built into every single week for our counselor to work with each classroom of kids and kind of work through some different pieces that might be useful for them. There will be an academic focus throughout the day. You can imagine that there's a time component here, and so time is kind of precious. So we have prioritized our standards through the course, at least from September now until October, and we'll see what happens from there on. But we're going to prioritize the standards so your kids are getting the meatiest meat that we can provide between now and then. And there's a lot of standards. I don't know how many of you have probably ever been so bored that you dug into Colorado State standards. That takes there's got to be nothing on TV for that to be your biggest thing right then. But if you've clicked in there and read through them, there is a ton of standards, and some of them are like, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of one of the little bitty ones. But anyway, there's little bitty ones and there's big ones, the ones that like everybody really needs to know to be successful, moving on through that particular grade level and being prepared for middle school, high school, and truly life. And so we've identified some priority standards that we're going to make sure are properly and adequately instructed, assessed, and we know exactly what kids can do and are showing what they know moving forward in the areas of language arts and math, social studies, and science. And then, of course, there will be scheduled support daily for small group stuff. And by small group stuff, we're talking about gifted and talented. We're talking about receiving services through special education. We're talking about ELD. Did I say GT? I think I did. So every single day, every single grade level has an hour that's been pulled apart so that students who typically receive some of that support will have access to it. Students who don't have some of those specific types of support may receive some small group instruction from their teacher or from another teacher even. Excuse me, what am I, hey, I have a tiny dog who's trying to talk to me. This is not the time. It's being recorded. He doesn't care. Okay, so that's kind of the big view of the schedule. And then our schedule for the entire school year will follow the published Thompson School District schedule. So, if you go onto the Thompson School District website and you click on the yearly schedule and you see those blocked out dates for things like parent-teacher conferences and Thanksgiving break and holidays, those are still going to be followed no matter if we're in person or remote. So if you're wondering which days am I in, which days am I out, that schedule still holds, acknowledging that we are on that late start and we are starting kindergarten on August 31st and our first through fifth grade September 1st. And that's listed there in my plan. Daily schedule. So that kind of gives you a big view. Let me take it to a daily for you. The total school day is planned for elementary to be about 6 hours of academic time. 4 hours, no more than 4 hours of that should be synchronous, which is real-time teaching and activities. And there you're probably thinking, yes, camera time, view time like you and I have right now. During each synchronous session, attendance will be taken. Elementary students will have at least 3 synchronous live on-screen learning opportunities throughout the day. Some of the musts will be language arts, math, and a rotating schedule of science and social studies. So not both within any given day, but they may be teaching science for 2 weeks and then swapping over, or they may choose, your teacher team may choose to commit themselves to one content or the other. There'll be additional access to specials and additional access to daily connect sessions, which I just spoke with you about. It's important to know that the needs are different even in elementary school. So your kindergarten students, while I say up to 4 hours of synchronous learning, I can't think of really very many kindergartners who are ready for that level of in-person, totally engaged on a camera. And so our kinder and especially our first grade teachers are being very thoughtful about how to scale that up and how to teach your kids and how to build in some of that, what's the word? Persistence, isn't it? I'll think of it. Just that idea that they can maintain focus. And so they're developing plans that are realistic for our
stamina. We're going to build stamina.
That's it. Stamina. Thank you, Jen Sutton. She's one of our kindergarten teachers. So we're going to build up the stamina of your kids, and we're going to be thoughtful about that so that it's realistic, knowing that we've got a long ways to go, but it's no different than if they were in person. You drop a kindergartner off at school, and I tell you, by 10 o'clock, they're like, I'm tired. This is hard. And it is. So we're going to build that in and make sure that's a part of it. Everything else that's not that synchronous time will be other academic time to be the result of assigned work of productive hard copy materials from school. For example, like workbooks, art supplies, handwriting, etc. Which reaches to another question that one of our parents sent me. Do we need a printer to do this? Do I need to go pick up any extra materials? And the answer is no. You should have access based on the supplies that we send home, everything that you're going to be asked to have. That reaches another question. What about school supplies? Right? There's that list that's on the Thompson School website, and you're thinking, okay, do I really need to buy myself 3 boxes of Kleenex? And the answer is no. Do I really need to buy myself 80 quart bags? No. I want you to buy what makes sense to you. We're going to provide as much as we reasonably can to make sure that your kid can access the learning and practice. And so would I suggest and recommend some spiral notebooks that if they're on the list? And would I suggest and recommend, pencils or pens that make your kiddo feel excited about being a part of this? Absolutely. Please know that if you have any concerns about being able to provide those things, our Thompson Education Foundation has provided, I think, 65 pre-filled backpacks for us. And so I'm going to get those arranged out there for those student pack pickup days. And all you need to do is let me know, hey, I'd love to have one of those backpacks. And we'll grab one for you in the most beautiful color we can think of. And bam, your kid is ready for school. Okay, so I don't have a finite answer of exactly what you should purchase while you're at Walmart or Target. The bottom line is be reasonable with yourself about what you think you need. But I also want you to take advantage of the great pricing right now, like 25 cents a notebook. Why wouldn't you? If you wait a couple of months, now they're like $1.85, and that's just silly. So anyway, take advantage of that the best that you can. Accountability and grading. This is a big difference. So my next slide, again, I don't want to forget that I have people on the phone. I'm displaying a slide right now, folks, about accountability and grading, because one of the shifts from last spring when we were sort of surviving this thing, the difference between then and now is that we're not surviving and just trying to hope that people will access. We have a job to ensure adequate an adequate education for, and actually better than adequate. At Garfield, we don't believe in just adequate. We do this really, really well. But part of that is making sure that you as a parent and your students are receiving feedback about their work. And so there will be an expectation of attendance, and there will be an expectation of grading. I shared with you already that attendance will be taken at every single synchronous session that's scheduled throughout your week, and you won't be surprised by those. You'll again have those every single week in advance. But let me talk to you a little bit about how the grading will happen. Academic scores will be separated from work habits, so we'll still be looking at the products and the quality of the work that's being provided, as well as the academics shown and what they're showing that they can know and do. And so it will look like it has in the years past, where your students will be graded on, receive scores on a rating of 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 meaning exceeding expectations, 3 met expectations, 2 slightly below, 1 needs some work, and 0 didn't exist and we got some work to do. Okay, so it's still standard-based grading. There might be some 0.5s in there. And for our teachers, we've not set an expectation that it's 1 grade per week in each particular content or 2 grades per week in each particular content. It really depends on what's going on. So there might be some longer projects or passion projects that are evaluated and graded at a particular juncture throughout this first quarter. And there might be some daily homework and assignments that are expected as students are demonstrating what they know given their off time. And so we'll continuously provide you updates on that, and I'll be happy to help you guys access Infinite Campus so that you can watch those things come in as well. I wanted to share with you some considerations that are in development, and these are sort of specific to Garfield. One of them is going to be a robust how-to site on our school website. I have a passion for making sure that you have every bit of information you need to know, so that when you open up a student Chromebook, you know what you're looking at and you know where you're supposed to go. I don't want the frustration to be, oh my gosh, my heart is in this. I want to help you do this, but I can't access this stuff. And so I'm going to create a whole bunch of videos, and there'll probably be a lot of me, and I apologize for that because my voice is going to get a little old coming through your computer. But we're going to talk through Google Classroom and Clever and Google Meets and Lexia and a lot of these things that you're going to have to be able to access. At this point, if you have a second, third, or fifth grader, third, fourth, or fifth grader, they probably know it like the back of their hand, but I still want to make sure you have access to it. I'm also going to try to create a helpline, so that way if problems do arise with a device and you're like, who do I call? We'll have a number for Garfield that we can get you some help. Okay. We're also going to develop a plan to keep on distributing hands-on materials by week. So the idea that we would be prepared for an entire quarter, like that would be a garbage bag of stuff, So we're going to develop and make sure you have what you need for each week, and individual grade levels will have a time and space for you to pick up what you need. And gosh knows Mrs. Javernick's probably going to drop it by your porch, so you might have hand-to-hand delivery there. She just loves to come see you and wave at you at your front door. But anyway, we'll have some kind of plan to be sure that you have what you need, and the hands-on materials and the workbook pages, and have a system for that there. And then we're going to have connecting digital videos and activities. It's my heart to make sure that if you are a family who is engaged in that Thompson Connect, that you still feel connected to Garfield. And so all the Friday wrap-ups are going to go out to everybody, and I'm going to be doing morning announcements a few times a week, and I'm going to send those to everybody in hopes that you'll watch it with your kiddos, and that they'll feel connected to Garfield still. One of the reasons our school is as special as it is because of the community and the relationships that we have, and I refuse to let a situation like we're in damage or harm that experience for your students and for you. And so it matters to me that we do some of those things that I open up and there's Garfield, coffee with the principal or a chat with your teacher, those types of things to help you feel connected regardless of what model you're in. Have you heard the term Bitmoji Classroom yet? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. A Bitmoji Classroom is this catchphrase, and it's this thing that is catching on fire in the educational community. Not literally, I shouldn't say that in a recorded session, huh? But it's taking steam, and what's on your screen is called a Bitmoji Classroom. And what it is these funny little animated versions of us, and we're developing these beautiful classrooms in a picture, but they're interactive. And I think most of you will experience a Bitmoji Classroom with your students. And the way they're intended to function is that your teacher will create this space, and almost everything in there is clickable and will take your students to a different resource. So I created, now, for those of you that can see, I was just having fun, but this is the Bitmoji Principal's Office. There's me behind the door kind of giving the principal's office evil eye. But the point of it is, if you were to click on that picture up to the left there, that's a picture of Lake Powell. And I included a link about my summer vacation with my family. And if you click on the little picture of the sun to the right, that tells you the weather in Loveland today. And if you click on a picture of that binder on my table, that is my Garfield remote plan. And then that little doggy in the bottom left is my little friend here at the home, and he doesn't do anything. I just missed him and included him in there, and his name is Pickles. So that's what a Bitmoji classroom is. So if you hear that term, you'll be like, ah, it's probably going to be a really cool looking picture that I can click around. Now I want to get to some of the specific questions that I received that really are more appropriate for a one-by-one. And I've got a couple of these, and then I'll kick into the chat and open it up for some open communication with you here. So the questions are listed here, and then I'll open up, for my answer after. One of them is, will I need a printer for the remote option? No. We're going to make sure that you have everything that you need on our end. Would you like one? I mean, there might be some things that you might prefer to have on paper, but it's certainly not required. School supplies, I've answered. School device versus home device, I believe I've covered. What about the social and emotional needs to be addressed in the remote environment? We know that we have kids with different needs. So we're still going to have a team of people who are responsive to that need. As I described, in the daily and weekly schedule is small group time, and so there's a benefit there that we can include students who just need that extra connection and help. We can create that developed connection there. And every single classroom, as I said, has developed a spot of time every single day devoted to the idea of empathy, devoted to the idea of getting to know each other, devoted to the idea of developing zones of regulation, how they're feeling, and how to get back to green and blue and those different things. Will students with IEPs continue to receive individualized attention, such as occupational therapy, speech, or with our resource room? And the answer is yes. So our special education team, as well as our gifted and talented and our ELD team, have all worked within the master schedule we're developing to be sure that they are able to access your particular students in the time allotted and the commitment that they need to per the IEPs that have been written, to be sure that they're working on those identified goals. And each of you will begin to receive information and communication from those folks. There may be some interim learning plans that will help them address the needs the best way that they can during this time. But again, you'll be included in all that information as that comes out. And excuse me, I need to take a quick drink. I hope I'm not talking too fast. But just know, when you're talking to yourself in a room, it's strange. But I see you out there, and I know you're there, and that makes me feel comfortable. Will we have access to necessary tools that were previously accessed during in-person teaching and learning? And this person is talking about things like, a good example, I've got a few kids that benefit from the use of a slanted board for their writing. We've got students who benefit from the access of just things that equalize their approach to school. And the answer is yes, you will have access to those things. And we have an amazing team and an occupational therapist that is there to help us make sure that those things are available to you. And reach out to us. If there's something that you need that you don't have, we're going to get that in your hands for you. Is Thompson School District exploring alternate learning formats for students with disabilities or developmental delays? That's not a question that I have a firm answer for. I've heard discussion about it, because the question is this Garfield Remote or is the Thompson Connect really going to meet the needs? Part of that can't be answered until we try, until we head into this and see what some of the challenges may be. But know that that is a conversation, and know that we're open to continuing that conversation with you and what your needs are, and trying to knock down the barriers as they exist so that you're able to get the education that you need and want for your kids. When can we expect to better understand the flow and schedule of each day for my grade level? So I've given you the 30,000-foot view. The day that you'll probably truly understand the exact schedule will be at your virtual back-to-school nights next week. Our teachers are developing those schedules now, so hang tight for those, and that day is coming. How will the teacher hold the students accountable for being on task and completing assignments? There's no simple answer for how we're going to do this, other than it's going to take a team. It's going to take you at home and we at school working together. It's going to take celebrating the students that are doing it well. If you were a part of Garfield last year, something we tried to do was really celebrate the kids who were logging into Lexia and trying to hit those minutes, and students who were turning in and completing math and showing up for those classes. And that was in an environment where there wasn't too much accountability on the backside. So now with some accountability and some grading and some increased feedback and increased praise and some additional help from you, I know that we're going to do okay. And if we need to, help students on a case-by-case basis, we can do that. But it's ultimately going to be a team effort to make sure that happens. Can we change our minds now that we know that there are alternatives for care with things like Boys and Girls Club? And the answer is yes. The caveat. So if you wish to make a change from Thompson Connect, I don't believe it's too late to rejoin Garfield Remote. I don't believe. I need to clarify that. So don't hold me to that. If you wish to move from Garfield Remote to Thompson Connect, there's going to be a waiting list. So, if you're wanting to make a change, I want you to contact me either by my email address or with a phone call tomorrow so that I can begin to organize what those changes might look like. Right now, I'm going to ask you to mentally commit to where you are, but I want you to share with me your desire to make a change, and I'll see what I can do to honor that request for you. So I won't make promises there, but if I develop those lists, then when I know how or when that possibility exists, I know I can get that done. Why is Thompson School, this is an interesting one. Why is Thompson School District on remote learning while other schools in surrounding areas are not? And that's a fair question, but the answer really lies within the county guidance that we receive. And so what I can share with you from, on behalf of Larimer County, and if you guys didn't get to take a look at that Board of Education presentation that came through a couple of weeks ago, I really highly recommend you do. They had representatives from the Loveland or the Larimer County Health Department share what's going on and share their dashboard. And the information, if you're like me, information helps, and their information was incredible. And so, Larimer County didn't say that we weren't safe. They didn't say that our plans wouldn't work. What they said was that with a turnaround time of testing right now, the likelihood that we would have this constant change and this possibility of opening and closing was realistic. And that wasn't good for kids, and it wasn't good for teaching and learning. And so ultimately our leadership made decisions along with Pooter and a couple of other districts to make the decision that they did. And we support that because there's nothing worse than constant change and constant, well, there's lots of things worse, but one of the struggles really is with the constant back and forth would be such segmented learning. And we know that we can do this and do this well in hopes that when October 16th comes, that we can do it even better. If we're allowed to return to in person, we can do it even better. And so I'm excited for that. Weld County is Weld County, and they've got some different leaders and different things going on. And so I can't speak to why they do what they do, but I can speak to the information that was provided at that board meeting. I would highly encourage you to check that out if you want some more specific information. This next one says, my child has more than one home, and only one of those homes is a Thompson School District device. The other has a private laptop. Will this work? You bet. Make sure that you can access the Google Sites and the different things that we're going to be showing you. And if you can't, we'll get you another device. But that should be completely fine. And then the next one, how will GT needs be addressed during this remote time? So I've not received the exact plan from our Garfield or our gifted and talented teacher, Alex Lindsay, but we've developed the time in our schedule for him to pull his small groups. And so you should experience seamless services through Alex and the work that he does, albeit remotely. Okay, so I did that in 37 minutes. That's not bad. So we have quite a bit of time here, and we'll use as much that makes sense. But it's officially an open time. And let me open up the chat function now. And so give me just a small moment to cruise through and back up a little bit and take a drink, and then I'll continue to look at some of the questions here. I appreciate your guys' support of Disney music. Thank you. I'm a little bit nerdy and listen just to show tunes. Like, I'm addicted to Hamilton right now, by the way. Have any of you seen this on Disney Plus? I can't get it out of my head. It's just all the time with me. But it's not good music to the introduction of a meeting like this. Okay. This next one says, do you know whether the Boys and Girls Club is planning their full-day program to support the school's recipe of synchronous and independent supported curriculum? And the answer is yes. So their entire idea, and they're even trying to work with, like, for example, Garfield's collaborative site is between us and Sarah Milner. And so they've been asking us to, when we're ready to share our schedule so they know how they can best support the Sarah Milner fifth graders along with Garfield fifth graders. And so they're already looking to try to accomplish that. And Thompson School District is seeing that need. And so across the district, our specials classes are all synchronously scheduled. So fifth graders in Thompson School District will all have specials at the exact same time, so that in situations where parents have potted together to try to create a manageable situation, that they don't have kids, you know, necessarily all over the place in the same grade level. Let's see here. Okay, that's some pricing there. Oh, Chris Lopez, why are we crying? Is it something on my face? Is there an issue? I'm just kidding. Okay. Let's see here. Cruising through. Be patient with me. Do Thompson Connect students pick up the weekly supplies from Garfield as well? No. The supplies for Garfield Remote are purely for and designed for the curriculum and the instruction that we're providing. So if you're a Thompson Connect student, you'll refer to the teachers there, but really most of what's being provided there is virtual, I believe. And if I'm wrong there, please forgive me. My understanding of that entire program is still somewhat limited, but I'm learning as much as I can, as quick as I can. This one says, are all GES students going to go back to in-person education if allowed in October, or can some stay remote? So the decision that you have to make right now, if you're a Garfield remote student and you've committed to this learning style, then when we go back to in-person, then you're a Garfield in-person student. So at that time, we will not be offering Garfield remote, Garfield in-person, and Thompson Connect. At that time, we will always have 2 tracks, right, like up through January, the Garfield remote or in-person and the Thompson Connect. And I hope that answers that question. How do we sign into the school computer? Username and password. So part of the kit that we're going to be sending out to you will include that little clever card and your login information. If you're dying to get logged back in, you can give me a call at the office and I'll look yours up tomorrow. But that Thompson Connect, or that pack pickup, again, that's a hard thing to say, has a little clever card that you show the camera, and then bam, it logs in. It will also have the username and password that you need to do that. August 28th, the back to school night. Oh, that's not a question for me. Okay. That's the questions that I see there. If I've missed something, I would encourage you to, if you can, turn your camera on and wave your hand at me. I can see all of your faces, and I'm willing to take your questions in person through the Meet now if you've got one you'd like to ask. I can get awkward. I'll start singing. The meet and greet. Chris Lopez, are you talking about a meet and greet at Garfield? We're having 2 virtual back to school nights. I'm going to back up my presentation to those dates again. Right here. So we have a back to school night for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade on Wednesday, August 26th from 6 to 6:45. And kinder through 2nd, you have yours on Thursday, August 27th from 6 to 6:45. Those will be virtual. And that student material pack pickup is on Tuesday, August 25th, anytime between noon and 7 o'clock. And remember, I know that 4th grade specifically is going to be sending out a sign up genius so that they can plan to meet with you and be sure that we're not piling up at the doors, so to speak. And please remember that on campus, you must wear a mask and socially distance. So thank you. Will the students be required to do schoolwork during the day, or can we complete during the evenings and the weekends? So that's an interesting question. There's definitely a requirement that we're taking attendance during synchronous sessions. There's a caveat to that, right? So you attempt to log in and the computer goes dead. Your internet is funky that day and it's just not working. We're going to be able to retroactively correct attendance if we understand what's going on. So it's going to mean impeccable communication with your teachers. They need to know what's going on and how to help you. Will the students be required to do schoolwork during the day? So those non-synchronous sessions, you know, the time of the day that isn't in front of a computer, isn't in front of a live session, there's going to be work, you know, assigned or suggested, not even suggested, work assigned. And you're just going to want to pay attention to when those things are due. There will probably be assignments that, you know, if it were my 5th grade classroom, you might experience something like, I hop on and I'm teaching the process for some long division using decimals. And I do a few how-tos and how should it look. And then I assign a few problems, and I might then say, okay, I'm going to see you guys back here at 2 o'clock. Log back in. Kids, I need to see the 5 problems. And what questions did you have? Let's check a couple. Let's see if you're understanding this. So some of them might be same-day revolving types of activities, and others might be long-term activities. Kathleen, I think I see your hand. If you want to unmute and ask something.
Hi, Mr. Kleiber. It's Erin. I love it. I had a question. Is on the 26th, the back to school night, will we find out with TSD Connects, the fully online platform, what like the start times and the end times are going to be? Or is that going to stay similar to what we have?
So yeah, so that's actually going to be separate from these back to school nights for Garfield Remote. I know that they are gearing up as fast as they can. And so, you know, even today, the teachers in Thompson School District who are going to be teaching that program are going through the necessary trainings and are being rostered with kids. And so you should be receiving information from those folks about the Thompson Connect, about the schedule, about the access and all of that stuff very soon. But I won't have any information at those back to school nights for the Thompson Connect system.
Thank you.
You bet. I'm sorry that I don't, but you should be receiving something very soon about that. I know you're probably very eager to hear a little bit more about that program. Looking for any other hands raised. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and thank you all for being here. And I really appreciate your time tonight. To have 38 families join me for this conversation means a great deal. And so thank you for coming. And again, reach out anytime. I'm at work every single day, and so you can come knock on my outside window, and we can talk through the window. You can call me, you can email me, you can send a carrier pigeon, and we'd be happy to talk you through any questions that you have. You should anticipate class lists to be published by the end of this week so that you know which classroom teacher you're going to have, if you've not already received some type of communication from them. And again, this video will be posted onto the website so that you can view it and share it with others at a later time. And hopefully I haven't said anything too silly, because this is going public, right? Or technically already is. So thank you again. I'm going to hang out here for a little while. So if you're waiting for a smaller group or would like to talk in a smaller setting, I'm happy to stay put and talk to you a little bit more. Thank you again, everybody, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much. That was a ton of super helpful information. I
I'm
appreciate
glad.
you taking the time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Like, I've got some people joining. This is late to the game. All right, I'm actually going to go ahead and stop the recording as well. Let me go ahead and do that.